Okay, so one of the first questions that I see a lot is how to get hired or market myself for some Singapore and for a lot of you internationally. So for Singapore, okay, be irresistibly awesome at what you do. That's a simple way of saying it. But at the same time, the litmus test is, does it compete with the top? Do you put it next to One Republic? That's your stuff. If you're like a band, if you're doing Coldplay-ish kind of music, put it next to a Coldplay record. Does it sound close? 80%, 70%? If you're not too far off the mark, you've got a good shot. If you put it next to something that's out there that you're trying to compete against and it's falling way too far the mark, that's where it's going to happen. It's going to be problems. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. This is something like as a producer, I do all the time. I record something, I mix it, I put it next to something that I'm competing against. So if for example, the Jenna Bones record, half the time the references was an Ed Sheeran mix, or I think for one of the tracks was a One Republic, John Newman track. And I put it next to it and go, holy crap, this stuff isn't as good yet. Let's touch up stuff, let's redo, let's tweak, let's constantly refine it till we put it next to side and go, we've gone as close as we can. So this is something that I encourage everyone to really be serious about. If you're gonna put out material, make sure it competes with the top. Or like a nice way of putting it is be irresistibly awesome at what you do. And that goes down like again, songwriting and arrangement standard, your recording quality, okay, the visual impact, your videos, your photos. I think the number one comment from going to conferences is your press kit photo can get you book gigs straight away. Some people will book you off an interesting photo or a really, really nice shot. It's not nice to say it because it should be all about the music, but it isn't. It just isn't. Like human beings, we're all visual creatures in many, many ways. Something that catches our eyes, usually something that we like seeing. And if I like how the artist looks, or I think it's a funny picture, or I think it's a great angle, I'll be more inclined to click yes on the MP3 that they've linked me, and so will your promoters. And this is true for every promoter I've spoken to. And if your bio is simple, concise, describes what you do quickly, and the brand of music that you do in less than a paragraph, you're going to get someone's attention. I think some of the bios I've seen over the years include like, we're 4 friends who've grown up since secondary school, blah, blah, blah. And it gets a bit long-winded, and you kind of want to do 3 main points, what you do, how you do it, and your standout kind of stats or something that people really love you or know you for. Again, it's not about just having an awesome recording or awesome music. Like, it has to be even out. Like, your photos have to look just as good, your music videos have to look just as good. Everything has to be even out. There's a lot of things I've done on a couple of projects where it really annoys me, or I don't think that the standard is good enough, but the response has been good enough for me to go, hey, at least on a music video level, we didn't spend $5,000 on a video, we spent $1,000 on a video, and it at least complements or doesn't take away from the music. Sometimes I've seen so many bands put out material that sounds good, but the video has unflattering angles. That's the one thing you always have to get rid of, unflattering angles. Double chins, no one wants to see that stuff. Or no makeup eye bags, baggy eye bags. I've seen a lot of those, and it's very common because everyone studies or stays up late. Put some makeup, even if you're a guy. I know it's difficult. Same with photo shoots. Everyone looks very drab or shy. I remember being really angry with a band who had a front man, and the front man wasn't in the front of the photo shoot. It was at the side or the back, and I was like, so who's the front man of the band? And instantly you've lost half the game right there. Same if you're a singer-songwriter and you look drabby and you don't look presentable, that communicates with your music. Like I said, the questionnaire is very, very important for you to understand and have the internal conversation with yourself, because that affects your recording quality, that affects your photos, that affects everything you put out. What is your value and how can you compete at that level? Again, press packages and bio write-ups. Like I said, after today, we'll send all you guys some good tips and primers on how to do those things. Like I said, those are important as well. Like I said, anyone's going to receive a material, they're getting it, get it in an email, and if it's too long, wordy, weird, funny, borderline retarded, they're just going to click delete. And speaking to many managers, radio people, that still happens a lot here and around the world. So it's not just Singapore that faces these problems. Okay, like I said, you really have to understand what you bring to the table and how you enhance on it. Like some people have really good songs and don't have a great singing voice, or live they can't have that kind of stamina to last a 45-minute set. You have to work on those things. You have to take feedback. Well, at the end of the day, it's about a well-rounded project. If you're so good vocally and you don't have the right songs, then that's only half your talent shared. If you've got great songs in the studio and it's great production and you don't replicate it live, people are gonna go, not the best live performance I've seen. Although that is not the worst thing ever. Actually, I found that a few of the artists I've worked with, they sound really good in studio. We groomed them. The live performance, a little bit lacking in my honest opinion, but people actually don't mind it so much because they like the songs. They're there to sing the songs. They're there to just be there to see the artist live. And also, consumers' expectations for a live act is a lot lower than an industry person like me. So I'm probably very harsh on the artists that I work with. But at the same time, I think if you're going to be 100% out there, make sure all your bases are covered. Okay, for example, if your age group is 15 to 20, look at school shows. A lot of school teachers, you can approach them who are AEP programs, send a proposal over, ask them, can we play at your school? Can we do a lunchtime show? Can we do assembly show? Ask, and some of them will ask you to pitch for a proposal. They'll give you the items that you need to present to their HOD for aesthetics to play a show there. So if your target market is school shows, also look at festivals like Bay Beats, like Ignite. Those are very school-centric festivals. Those are things you should be aiming for. I remember, for General Bose, for example, he played Ignite a month before its launch, and there were 700 people there. And at its launch, there were about 700 people there as well. And I think a good reason of it was obviously Ignite providing a lot of fan base to also go to the launch. So that's kind of important for you guys to note. Again, internationally. So I think a lot of people who ask me questions, when I'm at all these talks or working with artists, they're like, oh, my genre's not really for the Singapore market. It's great for international. So I find it very hard to believe. And often I find that the artists don't actually work hard enough to grow their local fan base. Because, like I said, I've seen proof that there is a local market for local music, and there's a lot of fans and a lot of young kids who are happy to lap up local music and happy to support, happy to pay, happy to buy local merchandise, proudly local. And I think instead of looking at it as, Singaporeans don't support Singaporeans, I think that mentality is actually changing quite quickly. So if you can't really carve out a market in Singapore first, it's going to be hard everywhere else because the standard is just as high, if not higher. Often it's higher. I find that when I compete on overseas projects, as a producer, I'm one out of 3 names, 1 out of 5 names of a project. I'm not the first person to go to. Whereas in Singapore, sometimes I'm easily the first choice, and I speak to the client and we book a session straight away. When I work for overseas clients, they'll be like, okay, we're talking to you, we're talking to 3 other producers, you're in line for this job. It's a lot more competitive outside. So if you can't really grow a local fan base in whatever genre you're in, unless you're in like super death pop, progressive metal, which is super niche, unless you're in super niche genres, which I'll explain the cycle as well, what happens if you're a super niche genre, and why you should avoid super niche genres if you're looking to take this professionally or as a full-time job, or more professionally. So yes, like I said, is there proof that there is a market for your music? So if you put something out on YouTube, on Facebook, and all your fan base is from Singapore and not much from other countries, then look at Singapore first. If there is really an outcry of people from Malaysia or Australia, look at those numbers. Can you then present these numbers to promoters and go, hey, we've got actually a lot of Malaysian fans, can you book us a show? Or talk to a band in Malaysia that's similar to your genre, and try to set up a show with them, and tell them that, look, if you put us on this show, if you guys want to come to Singapore, we'll put the same show for you guys as well. So that's a simple way of doing it. Okay, so like I said, some ways of getting, if you're in a super niche genre, find other super niche bands that you like. Find the fans. Add them on Facebook, add them on Instagram, add them anywhere. Communicate with them. Send stuff. Hey, I saw that you like this band. Here's our stuff. You might like it. That's a start. It's not the best way, and you will face a lot of rejection, but it's a start. Go to online forums in those countries or the same FB groups. Like I said, there's at least 5 in Singapore that you can tap into. SG Muso, Support Singapore Music, Singapore Originals. There's babies groups as well, so I think that's 4. I'm pretty sure there's 1 or 2 more that you can find. That's just on Facebook. There's Soft as well. Put your stuff up there first. You're not going to get a great traction immediately, obviously. But like I said, start by starting. You have to put something out there, and you have to slowly use numbers, use the insights to find out what works and what doesn't. That's how we learn anyway. Like, a lot of stuff we share is from personal experience and personally mess-ups. A lot of mistakes that we've made, and then we tweak the strategy, we tweak the formula to suit and be more effective about it. So, like, we're standing here telling you guys these things. It's not like we got everything right from day one. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, and I don't know about Tat, but a lot of artists I've worked with have made a lot of mistakes in their stuff, and we learn from it. We reflect on the mistakes, and we pinpoint what we could do better. And I'm lucky to be in conversations with many artists, from bands to high-selling bands to high-selling artists, and a lot of them have plans that don't work, that they have to have contingency plans, change of ideas, change of shoots, change of concepts. So you just got to start by starting, and you got to tweak along the way, because there's no perfect strategy from the start. We've given you some frameworks, some ideas. They'll be interchangeable. You'll have to find out stuff. This week, your music video director can't get the cut in time, so you're going to put another photo shoot from the studio instead. Those things are going to happen. Be prepared and have contingency plans. Another thing is apply for overseas festivals, especially if you're in niche genres. A lot of niche genres have festivals catered to those genres, and those are actually more open to foreign bands coming over playing those niche genres. Okay. Like I said, too many people assume the reason they aren't popular at home is because people don't get them. I've heard this so many times from so many artists. So like I said, do your homework first. Raise your standards. And again, if you're super niche networking with other bands similar to your genres, find festivals. Hope this happens. Fly away there on your own money, or if you're lucky to get your flights covered, if you can demonstrate you've got enough numbers. Again, if you go the super niche route, you play to a couple of 100 people. If you play the 350 to 500, you cover some bills. The process is rinse, wash, repeat until you run out of money or get jaded enough to call it quits. That's the sad truth. It's really harsh for me to say it, but I've seen it happen to a lot of bands I've worked with for more niche genres, to be able to tell you that's the reality of the situation. So like I said, songwriting good songs is half about creativity and craft, and crafting your creativity to make sure that people get it and people understand it and more people want to support you. So please factor those things in. Okay, the next question we get is how to make money and survive. And like I said, the models change from music and still constantly changing, and no one's really locked down on what the next medium is going to be. Like Spotify is now taking over a lot of the income. iTunes sales are dropping. CDs aren't very clearing much. Vinyl is making a comeback. These things will continue to shift and move and change for a while more. At least the next 5 to 10 years. So look at your skill sets. Like I said, look at your value. You get unique selling points, and choose from this list and find a bunch of stuff to make ends meet. For example, like I do corporate gigs. I write jingles for TV ads. So does Tat. We do mix jobs only from overseas clients. We do producing jobs only. We do a range of stuff to fork out enough money to get by the month. And those are just the list. It's not everything's for everyone. But I've also been talking to a lot of artists who are hosting at the moment, or acting, or for example, a lot of them are YouTube cover artists and they want to make the transition. And then I tell them, look at all these things that you could do to bridge your monetary gap initially, to get a head start or to survive while you plan things down the head. And one of the questions is, how much time do I spend a day working? And usually it's 10 to 14 hours. So that's kind of like my life schedule. And if you're an artist, it's even crazy in the sense that you have interviews, you have shows to play, you have appearances, you have to write songs, you have to go to studio. So be prepared for a not flexible life. Be prepared for, well, more like be flexible to not have a flexible life. Be prepared to make changes in your, real sacrifices in your lifestyle to do what you want to do for a living. So again, the first two I've covered them enough. Start by starting. So a band recently asked me like, look, we've done this whole single thing you talk about, and you know, we kind of want to jump in the deep end and do a full-length album. And the first thing I've said to them, listening to the singles and gone, you've not done a single release properly. You know, you've not promoted it properly, the quality isn't there. Let's just do one single. Let me give you guys the ropes to put your thing up properly before you jump onto a full-length album. Because I've seen too many acts and too many bands put out a full EP, full album. They put it out, no one cares. 3 months on the road, they get depressed, rejected. They try to put out with new material in 6 months, which still follows the same problems again and again, and they call it quits. And they're actually really talented or have a lot of potential. So I've seen that happen too many times to know that master or work on a good single release before moving on to more difficult things like EPs and full lengths. So get something, you know, small done right. Do the simple things well first before you do something more complicated. And like I said, you know, if you really put in the effort to do a single properly, that's 2 months of your life almost every day, going to TV appearances, going to finishing interviews from you know, 5 to 10 presses at the very least. Those are multiple, like lots of questions, radio interviews. You got to find time to go down, service your staff, charm the DJs, have a chat with them, get your interviews done. Email 50 to 100 people on the mailing list to preview your stuff, blogs and everything. That's a lot of work. So if you learn how to do that properly first time around, you'll see the benefits quickly, you'll see the rewards quickly, and that will encourage you to, you know, take a more serious approach to your music. Or, you know, it will give you a lot of buzz and a lot of things will fall in place easier than not doing something small right and continue fumbling along the way. Like I said, treat this like a startup business, you know. And there's something that you guys can Google on, is the 2 trains theory, which is, you know, if you guys are working a full-time job, build your career slowly till it reaches the same path before taking off with your career. I think too many people just want to jump into the deep end, quit the day job and do music and expect it to happen. It just doesn't happen that way. It takes a long time to convert you know, a career from nothing to something. And Tat's someone who can definitely give you a lot of advice on that.
Yeah, we'll touch on that later when we're networking outside. Yeah.
And like I said, if you're in a band, learn to delegate. Okay, learn to delegate. If you got 5 members in the band, one person should do merch, one person should do press releases, one person should focus on, you know, promotions, and one person should focus on arranging for recordings and videos and the likes. So often when I speak to bands or work with bands, there's 2 members who are quite screwed on, and the rest are kind of like along for the ride. And being a band and having 5 people or 4 people, that's actually your strongest asset, is having 4 people work on different things to build the business up. If you're a singer-songwriter and you're really, really good and people want to manage you, then your manager skill set helps you to leverage on that, or, you know, you have to find a few people to help you out in that sense. Okay.